Stay fly, stay fly,
right?
stay fly.
It's not a mystery that little Pablo or little Billy can open a car lot on the main strip when how does that happen? I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, these people were like the tenants from hell. I mean, you know how it is when you have inner city property. You have the inner city activity.
You're listening to The Fly Guy Show. They do everything on the fly and in such a fly manner. Stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly.
All that party. The views expressed by the guests are only the views of the guests, unless we say we agree, unless explicitly stated.
Hey, this is Ernie Thomas here on the Bold School Podcast. You're listening to Psycho Vonner's Fly Guy Podcast. Support, like, subscribe, and share. He's saying some good things. Share it. Don't keep it to yourself.
All right, and we're live with another great session of Get On Code, the Fly Guy Show. Get On Code, the Fly Guy Show. And that's where we have a series of melanated conversations focused on improving our collective situation. With me today on the platform, we have the good brother Corey Phillips. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing very well, my brother. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, I'm glad I was able to pull you away from the pregame from your Steelers.
Yeah, listen, I'm a big-time Steelers fan. My whole family, Steelers fans, brother. So, we get together. With COVID, we got to kind of do things a little different. So we kind of, keep our circle tight. So it's me, my wife, my brother, and her brother, and their spouses. We kind of, mix and mingle together. We're all Steelers fans. So this week, we're actually at my brother-in-law's house. We kind of set up in the backyard and social distance and, have the TV set up and,
That's
real cool, laid back, but, we still get our Steelers in.
That's what's up, man. Be safe, brother. Definitely be safe. I have the Money Ave logo up on the screen because I'm back again dealing with another good brother from Money Ave, man. So
Money Avenue, yes, sir, in the building.
So how did you get involved in this financial business that we're in?
I've actually been in the business since 2006, right? So I was I got started as a loan officer. I worked for a net branch, older guy actually who had been in the business for years, kind of took me by the hand and showed me the business and, end up actually giving me my own net branch, after a couple of years. But
hold on. Your own net branch? What does that mean?
So basically, when you have a company that has a branch, like a private lending branch, they will open up smaller branches. It's sort of like a franchise. So it's a way of saying franchise for the mortgage business. Weller Funding was the name of the company. And Mr. Weller was a great guy. But again, like I said, he was up in age. So when he passed away, his children actually didn't want to continue the business. So, I found myself needing to, move on. So I, kind of sharpened my sword, got with a bunch of different great companies over the years, and I learned a lot. So I actually got into business in end of 2006, early 2007. So right when the crash was happening, the bubble burst, which is interesting that we're talking about this now because when I got into business when it was very ugly, but it gave me an opportunity to learn a lot.
All right, well, what are some of the things you learned? Because these financial lessons seem to be extremely formative in the movement that's happening with our people right now. So what are some of the lessons you learned?
Well, I actually learned how important credit is. I learned how important your credit actually is. That's one of the first things I learned, because when you're a young guy, so I'm 44, so we're talking about almost, almost 20 years ago. So, I was in my 20s. So, we don't learn these things in our community, right? We don't learn these things in school. So, it gave me a really, really swift lesson about why your credit is so important. Because when you first get into any business, right, you learn, you reach out to your friends, your family, your circle of influence, right? But nobody had good credit. So I couldn't get anybody a loan, couldn't get anybody a house. I refinanced my parents' house. It was my first loan. So, it taught me that your credit is everything. That's one of the first things I learned. The second thing I learned is that, there's three parts. The most important thing to getting a conventional loan is you have to have good credit. You have to have, some money for down payment, and you have to be able to, most importantly, provide proof that you have the ability to repay the loan.
And, I think that's the part that really throws a lot of people when they're going through the process of obtaining funding for property, for their business. When people ask them for this document, for this document, for this document, for this proof, I've noticed that people are getting pretty offended. Why is it so important to have those documents?
Well, when you're talking about the residential side, right, the owner-occupied side, the conventional side, we're talking about government-backed loans, right? So FHA is what I did a ton of when I was on that side. So FHA is backed by the government. They're insuring the loan. So, of course, they want to make sure that if they're lending someone $300,000, $250,000, $300,000, that you could actually repay the loan. So your credit history, your payment history, your assets, meaning you need to bring some money to the game. You need to have some skin in the game. These are all things that's important. Why? Because they don't want to insure a loan that's ultimately going to fail. So they need to kind of, for lack of a better term, to get all in your business.
And that's just the way it feels.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It feels like they all in your business, man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I've often wondered if that was done to prevent some of us from getting involved.
Well, unfortunately, we all know the world we live in. As melanated people, as you like to say, I love that term. As black people, melanated people, we understand that the odds are stacked against us. So unfortunately, there's a term called redlining, right? So a lot of these things were put in place originally to prevent us from being able to buy homes in neighborhoods that they didn't want us to buy property in. The last thing they want us to do is to be able to take advantage of real estate, because real estate is the cornerstone of wealth. So we're talking about building generational wealth, and we're talking about turning the corner or riding the tide of change. This is one of the things we're going to have to pay attention to. We're going to have to pay attention to, to taking advantage of these things that are out here in terms of real estate.
I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to show this poll tax receipt. Somebody paid this poll tax so that they could vote. And to be able to pay the poll tax, they also had to own land at that time. I know that I was talking with some of my elders in my family, and they were some of the first in Opelika, Alabama to vote. And it was only because my grandfather owned land. And because he was a landowner, they were able, they paid the poll tax. Sometimes there were some other stuff, some other shenanigans that the white supremacists put in front of them. But owning land made all the difference.
Absolutely, of course. And it's still true to this day. There's certain things that you just can't take advantage of in terms of building wealth and building stability if you don't have real estate. If you don't own land, if you don't own real estate, in my opinion, you own nothing.
Wow. So, look, somebody is watching this and they're like, well, their money makes money. So if we can go into that concept, we titled this, Our Money Makes Money and Builds Things. So right. You help people to take their money, their resources, and to increase, to have some level of duplication. How does that happen?
So let me just back before I answer that question. Let me back up, because you asked me how I started, right? And one of the reasons why I made this transition and I kind of got into the investor financing side is because I honestly believe that this is the way to truly help people. I can truly help my community if I can teach people how to make money in real estate and how to use investor financing specifically to build their real estate portfolio and ultimately build wealth. So one of the things we at Money Ave, we teach you how to do is we teach you how to go out and buy a piece of property without using without needing to have a ton of money, right? A ton of great credit. Why? Because on the investor side, they're not really focused on your overall credibility. Now, they are going to look at your credit score to kind of get a barometer of who they're dealing with in terms of who they're lending money with, but there's no personal guarantee on the investor side, and you can get up to 90% of the loan to value for the property. So we could ultimately get you into an investment property that costs $100,000. It's a beat up, ugly house for $100,000, and we'll loan you $90,000. Your responsibility is 10% plus whatever closing costs, and we will also loan you 100% of the rehab costs. So ultimately, we can show you how to buy a piece of property for 10%. We'll give you all of the money to rehab it. So if it costs $70,000 to rehab it, you're all in at $170,000. The property now is being looked at from the after repair value standpoint. Now you got a $350,000 property value on this house, and you're only in it for $170,000. So I mean, you can do the math. You can look at how profitable that could be. You know, and we teach people how to do this over and over and over again. And
you know what? Before you continue,
go ahead.
I want to say not only do you teach people how to do this, and I can say this from a broker standpoint. So I help broker funds. So I'm gonna give an example with one of my clients here. He purchased the property for $33K. It needed $58K in rehab. We were able to give him 90% acquisition and 100% of the rehab funds. And so what you just described is what I did with my client. And you're able not only to teach people, but Money Ave is able to give the funds.
Absolutely. So, you know, we felt like as a young Black company, we needed to be able to control exactly the way the process goes. A lot of times, you know, dealing with other lending institutions, hedge fund money, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of different roadblocks like we just spoke about. So we felt like we needed to control the process to ensure that as long as the deal makes sense, and as long as we're dealing with somebody who has credibility, that we can get the financing done.
So, you and I know this, and so for the uninitiated, there's a term hard money or asset based, and from what you just described, the property is the asset that the fund is going to look at to determine if it's a good deal, not necessarily the person's credit. Did I say that right?
That's absolutely right. And you know what? I'm actually glad you said that, because I actually take the time to explain to a lot of people when they hear the term hard money, you know, they think that it's harder to get this financing for some reason. But the reason why it's coined hard money is because it's going to be tied to the hard asset of the real estate, not necessarily your credit profile. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. So how did you get so passionate about teaching us this part? I mean, did you go through it yourself? You know, how did the light turn on?
Absolutely. So, you know, one of the first things I wanted to do after I, you know, realized that, wait a minute, man, you know, early on, I realized like, okay, I have the ability to get these investors this money, and they're going off and making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now I make a fee, I make pretty good money, but I'm not getting up from the table with a check at a closing once the property's done for $100,000, $150,000. So when I started to look at that, it said, wait a minute, I need to get in this game myself, right? So what me and my wife did, actually, I've been with my wife 20 years, right? So we've been married. Our anniversary was in June of this year. We've been together 20 years, right? So the first thing we did was we bought a property, a 3-family, I rented the second floor out to my brother, and I rented the third floor out to an old schoolmate. They paid the rent. We lived, I think the mortgage was out of pocket, like $200 a month. And previously we were renting an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment in East Orange, New Jersey for $1,300, right? $1,300 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. I had a 3-family house, and out of pocket every month towards the mortgage, at least, it was $200 out of my pocket. So that was absolutely awesome. And what that allowed me to do was save some money so that I can invest. So the very next thing we did was buy another property, right? Because if you tie your shoe, you tie your left shoe, you can tie your right shoe, right? So once you do something once, you can do it over and over and over again, especially when you have systems in place. So one of the things we also teach people, from trial and error, right? Because we learn all the things that we teach at Money Avenue is really from, trial and error and our own experiences. So one of the things we teach people right off the bat is that you need to have a team. So, your money makes money, and how to use your resources is a perfect title, for this podcast. So we teach people how to build a team and use your resources. We teach people that you need to have a general contractor on your team. You need to have an attorney on your team. You need to have an accountant on your team. I mean, you do intend to make some money, right? And if you make some money, you're going to have to pay some taxes, right? So you should have an accountant. You should also have an architect maybe on your team. If the general contractor doesn't have the ability to draw up plans, you might want to have an architect. And that's actually a lead into something I wanted to talk about next. But, you should have these partners on your team. So I mentioned contractor, I mentioned attorney, I mentioned accountant, I mentioned architect. And the only other thing that I really think you should have is, some sort of financial advisor. You should definitely be speaking to some sort of financial advisor so that you can figure out how much activity you need to have in your real estate business to reach your overall 3-year, 5-year goal. So those 5 are on my team. That's the team I have. So we kind of teach people how to, network with these folks, find out who you want to do business with, and actually get them on your team. Because, I read somewhere a long time ago, a gentleman by the name of John Pena, he says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So, it's not only a good idea to have a partnership, have a network, but to have a friendship with the people that you do business with that are on your team, right? Because they're going to lead you to opportunities. They're going to lead you to success, and their success is important your success is important to them because it's also their success. So it just makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. All right. Well, you just described 2 examples where, you bought your first property, you and your lovely wife. You moved to your second property, you and your lovely wife. And everything sounds beautiful, honky-dory.
Oh.
And you and I both know that there's some challenges in this.
But it wasn't. It
tell us the story.
All lovely. So, 3 years after we bought the 3-family, we actually did move out, and we bought a single family home, our first, single family home, like, the home we lived in, me, her, and our son. And my brother got married, so he moved away. My classmate actually moved away to Texas. He took a job in Texas. So now I got all new tenants. The worst tenants ever. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, these people were like the tenants from hell. Yeah, I mean, you know how it is when you have inner city property. You have the inner city activity. You have the things that are going on. Which, it is what it is. Those things I could deal with. I grew up in East Orange in North New Jersey, so I'm not foreign to those things. But having to deal with them firsthand at a property you own is not a nice thing. So that's one thing. But, when you got damage to your property, every time you turn around, there's major damage to your property. folks are not paying rent, so you got to put them out, and then you actually got to go in and repair the property to get it prepared for the next tenant, So these things are the reason why I say you want to have a general contractor on your team who has an electrician on the team, who has a plumber on the team, who has a brick mason on the team. Because when these things happen at your property, you want to have someone that you can call to go and take care of that, or otherwise have a management company involved to handle all of that stuff. But that can get pricey. So, you have those two options. So everything's not always rosy, but if you have the foresight to know that everything's not going to be rosy and you prepare for issues, then it's just another day at the office.
Well, then what are some of the things that people should prepare for? You just described property damage. You also described not paying the rent. So what are some of the other things that a real estate investor needs to prepare themselves mentally to be able to handle?
Well, just like any other business, when you first get into business, you're married to this business. This is life. Your business is life at that point. So you have to, everything in your life has to be, focused on that. So I would suggest that you just have to be smart with your money. Just be smart with your money, right? Be smart with your money. I can't say that enough. If you have a 401k, if you have some money saved, don't go buy your Benz, right now. Don't go buy jewelry right now, right? Just don't do things that are not going to benefit the overall goal in the long run, right? Because there are going to be things that are unforeseeable that you're going to need to handle in order to maintain a forward movement in your business. It's just the bottom line. So you have to be smart with your money and prepare yourself for these shortfalls so that you can handle them in stride.
And this is one of the other things that Money Ave does a really great job of. It prepares people to forecast and to prepare for certain things. I said before, I broker money for 4 different funds. Money Ave is one of them. I like working with Money Ave the most because you really take the time. We sat down with that client who was getting that grandiose property, the White House in Chesapeake, and I'm telling you, the instructions that you gave her and the guidance you gave her made all the difference.
Well, you listen, bottom line is we're not those 3:00 in the morning, late night real estate gurus who, we're not going to sell you a book who that paints the lovely picture of everything. We really are invested in our clients' success. Why? Because their success is our success. So part of, preparing them for success is preparing them, for failure. Because there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs, there's going to be some ins, there's going to be some outs, wins and losses, and I can go on and on and on. But, we like to try to prepare people for what is actually going to happen. Not, the rosy, you're going to be a millionaire in 6 months picture that a lot of these real estate gurus try to sell you, because that's just not realistic. Those of us that have reached, a real level with this real estate game, we understand that there's going to be some problems. So we share that. It's important that we share the real information with our community and the people that we deal with.
Right. Well, now you talked about the clients not paying their rent. You talked about the property getting trashed, and you talked about, what's the term you use? A maintenance company. What are some other things that you can use? What are some other strategies you can use to prevent having to worry about them not paying the rent or the property getting damaged? What are some of the other great strategies you use for that?
Well, there's no strategy to safeguard you from people not paying their rent, right? Because outside of that home, real life happens, right? So people lose their jobs. People go through hardships, health issues. These things happen. And there's no real way to foresight that. Because we did background checks on everyone that moved in the house. So there was no real way that we could know that, we were going to have the type of issues that we end up having. So, again, the only thing I can honestly say is to go into every situation with real estate prepared for the worst, and, hope for the best. I mean, just like, that's really the truth. I mean, anything else I could say to you, because there's no magic pill to this. There's no really real way to know. But that's the reason why there's so many different avenues of real estate, right? So let me just say this. The very next property that we bought, as opposed to buying another rental property, we actually bought two. We were able to pull some equity out, and with some savings, we actually bought two ugly properties on the same block, directly across the street from one another. One had a fire, and the other one was actually the streets vacant property. It's like this one property had just been vacant for years. Every street has one, in urban areas or, middle class areas. There's always that one house that's kind of been vacant forever for whatever reason. So we actually bought the two properties right across the street from each other. And I partnered with an attorney that I was actually working with at the time. I partnered with him. We put up the money to buy the houses. He put up the money to rehab the houses. And when I tell you that at that point in my life, as a 27-year-old kid, I seen more money than I've ever seen in my life. A check with my name on it for $160,000. It changed my passion for which way I wanted to go. I figured if I ever get back into rental properties, I would do it a little different, but my main focus would be to buy, fix, and sell from that point on. So what we always suggest to people, and what we do through our interviewing process, is to kind of ask the questions and kind of understand what the overall goal is, for your business. Some people have the ability, have the stomach to deal with the tenants and the property issues because they may have a background in plumbing, electrician, so on and so forth. These different things may be their trade, to begin with. So they don't really have the issues that we had dealing with these, issues at the house. So, it just depends on the person's overall goal. Everyone's vision and everyone's business is unique. So we try to find out exactly what it is you want and then present you with the tools and the roadmap to get there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So, I met a guy, I got a call from a guy on Thursday, and he wanted to get into wholesaling, right? And for those that don't know what wholesaling is when you find a property, you put that property under contract for $60,000. You then assign that contract to an end buyer for $70,000, $80,000. When that end buyer buys that property for $70,000 or $80,000, the original seller gets paid off. You walk with the difference. So that's another unique technique of real estate. So he wanted to partner with Money Avenue to get transitional funding for those deals where he had to close immediately and could not necessarily wait on the end buyer's money. So, sometimes depending on the situation, it's a case by case situation, but we will partner, with the potential partner on some of those specific deals.
Right. And I wanted to show your website. So this is the Money Ave website, moneyave.com. We're going to put that link in the chat, but moneyave.com, the one-stop destination for home loans, investment property loans, and business loans, insurance, banking, personal finance. It looks to me like, and I already know the answer. Y'all doing the most. Y'all doing the most, man.
Well, listen, we intend to really, really compete with the bigger banks, right? So we're not gonna do it halfway, right? My favorite rapper, Big Daddy Kane, said ain't no half stepping, right? So we're gonna do it to the fullest. So we really understand holistically what financial literacy looks like. We understand what financial freedom looks like. We understand how to help people build financial wealth. And we are on a mission to change the complexion of our people when it comes to building generational wealth. That is the number one goal of Money Avenue, is to teach our people and arm our people with the tools to build generational wealth. So when you look at all of the different things we offer, right? So with banking, we teach people about banking and how to bank right? Like for instance, our bank accounts, there are no fees, right? Are you aware how much money Chase, Wells Fargo, whoever you bank with right now, they are making close to, or maybe even more in some cases, $1 billion a month. $1 billion with a B a month in fees, just to allow you to pay your bills and do your whatever you do in your bank account. They're making $1 billion. They need to be ashamed of themselves. There's absolutely no reason to charge that much in fees to everyday working people. So with our banking, there are no fees, but we have a lot of cool systems. We teach you how to budget your money. There's tools in our banking platform that teach you how to budget your money, because the most important thing is to spend less than you make so that you have money to save. And if you have money to save, then you have money to invest, right? We have insurance. We offer life insurance, right? Because we're talking about generational wealth, right? It's not a mystery that little Pablo or little Billy can open a car lot on the main strip when how does that happen? Well, it happened because Mr. O'Brien or Mr. Lopez passed away and left Pablo or Billy $350,000 that they could use to start a business and life insurance. So something just as simple as that could be the key to generational wealth. This is what we preach and teach. So we offer the tools to do that. So we also teach people how to get your credit score to a certain level and close your credit, lock it, and then we teach you how to build your business credit in your LLC, in your S Corp, in your INC. We teach you how to build your business credit and then borrow solely on the credit of the business. We also help you get a minimum of $50,000 in business credit. So, we kind of arm you with all the tools to be successful. If this is the roadmap, right? We hear a lot of complaining in our community. We hear a lot of talk about what the issues are. And I'm not saying that we don't need to focus on these issues, because we need change in a lot of these areas too. But I always ask one specific question. What's the plan? What's the plan? And if we don't have a plan, then we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And what is that? Insanity. If we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, that's insanity by definition. So this is the plan, people. This is the roadmap. This is it. This is what you need. These are all the different things that you can utilize to build your business, build your wealth, and create generational wealth for your family.
Ashe. I want to take a moment to thank some of our sponsors for their great support. Money Ave isn't one of the sponsors, but we'll work on that. I want to take Guidance Whiskey. I have an empty bottle of whiskey here. I don't drink a lot, but when I do, I enjoy Guidance Whiskey. You can find Guidance Whiskey at guidancewhiskey.com. I tell you, they have a lot of great things. They work with cocktails. They have this old fashioned is great. The Blackberry Splash, that mix is really nice as well. So go to guidancewhiskey.com for that information. And I like a good soap. I found out that if you...
Yes, brother. Me too.
Yeah, I like good soap, man. And I found this out, man. I found out that it's not just what you put in your body intake, what you drink and what you eat.
Very important,
it's what you put on your skin, which is your biggest organ. And so I want to thank the good people at Common Sense for You. They have some great soaps. They have some great oils. They have a lot of great things. CommonSenseForYou.org. CommonSenseForYou.org. You can go to CommonSenseForYou.org and you'll find they have herbal tooth powder. That stuff is all natural. All natural. Herbal tooth powder, much better for your intake than toothpaste is.
The fluoride in toothpaste is the worst. Right, absolutely.
Right. The Detox Your Skin package is $125 and worth every penny of it. I have all of that stuff upstairs in the house. The Bug Off oil, I use that during the summertime to keep the mosquitoes away. The Lavender Sugar Scrub Cubes are actually kind of fun. I'll leave it at that. They're kind of fun. So they have a lot of great things. So you can simply go to CommonSenseForYou.org. That's CommonSenseForYou.org. And the last thing is, hey, I'm Seiko Varner, and you're watching The Fly Guy Show. You're watching Get On Code. My firm does credit fixes, tax resolution. We lend private money, and some of that private money that we lend comes from MoneyAv.com. Yes, so, and we do debt consolidation. So make sure you get in contact with us. We can provide you with some great services. We want everybody to win, like my customer here. He's winning. We provided him with 90% of the acquisition and 100% of the rehab costs. He's winning. Hashtag winning. And we want everyone to win in the very same way. And like I said, Money Ave is my favorite lender to work with, so I can make sure that you get 90% and 100%, 90% acquisition, 100% funding. But it depends on the asset, like you said earlier. It depends on the deal. It's a hard, yeah. So I want to talk about something a little different. I know that you have marketing in your background. How does marketing connect with this real estate financing, business financing, investment financing world? How does marketing even impact that?
So, when I first got started in the business, I don't come from a wealthy family. I didn't have connections. My dad was an iron worker. For years, my mom was she worked in the dietary department in the kitchen. In the hospital. So, I come from working class people, so I didn't have connections. So the only way that I could drum up business was to market myself. And in those days, we didn't have, all of the sexy stuff that we have now in terms of social media. So a lot of the stuff was door to door and, belly to belly, slapping palms and meeting people and what have you. So as my business grew, I kind of learned a lot of different things about marketing, how to market myself, how to, become a household name in the areas that I focused on in business. And I just got good at it over the years, as technology changed and as different things became available. I was able to kind of get really good at, marketing myself. And the best thing I think I did was I actually stopped marketing me and actually just started to market the services that I offered, because I think everybody's not going to connect with you, right? Most people have selfish reasons why they do business with who they do business with. So it may not be you that they connect with, but they may connect with your message. So messaging is everything. And that's what I ultimately learned. So I got really good at just getting the message across and not really making it about me. I think that's the mistake that a lot of marketers do, a lot of real estate investors do, a lot of mortgage guys do. I think they make it about them as opposed to making it about the messaging. So that's just been about that's about it. That's really the golden rule that I think I've learned over the years.
Okay. Your audio seems a little, I don't want to use the word janky, but your audio is a little janky right now. It's gotten a little minimized. So let's bring this to a close, man. What do you see as the future of this investment space? What do you see is within the next few months, next few weeks, next few years, what should people kind of focus on? What are you focusing on?
I'm focusing on land. Right now, it's a seller's market. inventory is really low. It's hard to find properties. It's hard to find good deals. So I'm focusing on vacant land. So my advice to the investors out there is to focus on, vacant lots in your area, vacant buildable lots where you can go in and, do new construction on the land and sell the property at a profit. So I think that number one is the number one thing that I'm going to be focusing on. I would suggest that people focus on that as well. And also just be prepared for these foreclosures that are coming, because they are coming. Within the next 6 months, there's going to be a release of all of these holdbacks from the governments and the local municipalities with, no foreclosures and no evictions. So that's going to be over very soon. This vaccine is out, so all of this news that's swirling around us is important to pay attention to, because it's going to affect what the government actually does and what the municipalities are going to do to follow suit. So with that being said, there's going to be a ton of property available with these foreclosures. So the smart thing is to get yourself in position to take advantage, because every other community is going to do that.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. We want to make sure that people can retire out on the beach. We want to make sure everyone can do something nicely like that. So I think you've kind of gone into a lot of great information, Corey. We have on the screen right now where people can go to moneyav.com to get more information about it. I think we've given enough information, brother. I really think we have. I know you have a Steelers game coming up, man, and you don't want to miss that.
I am ready to go. Trust me, brother. I am ready to go.
Hey, but
at the same time, I can sit here all night and share with the people, man. I love black people. I love brown people. I love our community. So I can always share, you know what I mean? But Steelers is life around these parts, brother.
All right. Well, Corey from Money Ave, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure,
man, much success.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. I'll talk with you later, bro. Peace. All right. That was a good brother. And he said, look, it's time. It's time. It's time. What time? It's time for a change. It's time for a change. So let's be part of that change, and I hope you are. You've been watching Get On Code, and the code is empowerment. I know a lot of times when we say the term Get On Code, we're speaking about Neely Fuller's compensatory code. In this case, the code is empowerment. We simply want you to get empowered. The code is empowerment. So with that being said, hey, thank you again for watching Get On Code, the Fly Guy Show. All right, take care. This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes, we do tax resolution, we lend private money, and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated. Take care.
Stay fly, 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 stay fly.
The views expressed by the guests are only the views of the guests, unless we say we agree. Unless explicitly stated.
Stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly.
Stay conscious. Stay fly.